Even though Red Bull had one of the greatest starts in history by having two 1-2 finishes in the first two races, the unrest that happened last year seemed to have continued in the current campaign as well. Even though Verstappen has everything to be happy about for his finish in P2 after starting P15, the guy ahead, his teammate Perez, has proven to be a tough nut to crack, something that the Dutchman is not very happy about. The actions after the race proved that a 2016 Mercedes-like season is ahead of us, this time in the light of Red Bull. After suffering a drive shaft issue during the qualifying session, Verstappen finished the session in Q2, meaning that he had a long way to go on Sunday. His teammate Perez won the second consecutive pole position in Jeddah, and when he overtook Alonso in the early stages of the race, he never looked back. As for Verstappen, the two-time world champion did have a difficult path ahead of him, but thanks to the safety car and the dominance of the RB19, second place was definitely a guarantee for him. This is exactly where he finished, but it seems like he wasn't happy with P2, especially after he continued to push after he was being told to maintain the pace and bring things home for a safe 1-2 finish of the Austrian squad. When Verstappen passed Alonso in the ending stages of the race, he had more than 10 laps to push and try to reach Perez. However, the pace of the Mexican was also very good, and this time he didn't plan on yielding back and being the second fiddle yet again. The command that Perez received was to maintain the lap times at 1:33, and when he asked what Max's pace was, the engineer replied 1:32.6, which is why he was more than confused and had to ask why the team was asking him to go slower than his teammate. The fans were confused as well, and it seems like Red Bull wanted to prioritise Max yet again by allowing him to catch up to Perez by doing tactics that would deliberately slow down Perez. But the Mexican knew much better than that, and that's why he said that both of them were pushing without a reason, which is when he hit the pedal and didn't allow Verstappen to be even near him. The Drivers' Championship goes in Verstappen's favour now, with him having 1 point more due to the fastest lap that he was able to obtain in Jeddah at the last lap of the race, something that he yet again disobeyed team orders for. Verstappen asked his team about the fastest lap, something that the team said they were not concerned about at the moment, and the response of the two-time world champion was, "Yeah, but I am." Then the final push for the extra point just went on to show that Verstappen doesn't plan to help out his teammate or listen to his team if it's not prioritising him. And the fact that the Dutchman denied his teammate the fastest lap of the race goes on to show that he didn't become a two-time world champion by letting his teammates have what they wanted without a proper battle. Everything started during qualifying when Verstappen's bad luck kept him out of Q2, which triggered him so much that he missed the team debrief in the evening. Nico Rosberg, the 2016 world champion, condemned the behaviour of the Dutchman, saying that he's dragged with himself for the entire course of his career. When talking about Verstappen's actions, Rosberg said, "I don't think that's weak at first. What kind of sign is that for the whole team? It's not good to see that, really. That is not a good approach, not a good mentality this early in the season when the team has done such a brilliant job with the car and is working so hard. He could be a little bit more gracious, I would say." And from that point on, Verstappen has set himself the goal of winning the race, so anything that comes below P1 is a very dissatisfactory result for his championship aspirations. The fact that his father didn't even bother to say one simple congratulations to Perez after the Monaco GP last year and everything that spiralled out of it just goes to show that the respect between Verstappen and Perez is yet again at its lowest point, even though they assured everyone that the beef is long behind them and they're going to work for the betterment of the whole squad. With a few laps left to go in the race, Verstappen wasn't keen on letting off the gas pedal and tried to make up for the time that he was behind Perez, even though the team gave him clear instructions to just cruise to the win, especially after the Dutchman heard some weird noises from the drive shaft, the part that got him out of Q2. This is something that Perez has spoken about, as he further went on to add, I think the team did a fantastic job in letting us race. I just felt like there was a point where, I don't know, for the last 10 laps or so, that we had very similar pace within a tenth faster or slower. I just felt like the gap, it probably would have been a bit less or a bit more, but it wouldn't have changed anything. Keep in mind that this is the first time that Perez was able to fend Verstappen off in a fair and square battle, and for comparisons, we're going to take last year's Spa race where Verstappen started far down in P14 and was able to win the race comfortably ahead of his teammate Perez. Now, a different story is developing in Red Bull, especially after Perez said that the fight for the championship is on and that Red Bull found a solution that would suit both him and Verstappen in terms of the car's performance. Is all of this necessary at this point of Red Bull's dominance? The team has no one but themselves to beat, but at a certain point the second driver feels like he deserves more, which is exactly what happened in 2016 between Rosberg and Hamilton. It's very likely that we're going to see similar things happen to Red Bull in the current season if something like last year doesn't happen and Perez becomes uncompetitive all of a sudden. Verstappen was asked whether he believes Perez will be his main opponent, and if so, how is the team going to deal with having two competitive drivers at the same time? Something to which he replied very neutrally, "Well, if that's the case, it's fairly simple, right? We're allowed to race, so the best one will finish in front." Perez was also very optimistic about racing Verstappen in a fair and square battle, as the Mexican went on to add, "If that's the case, then it'll be fantastic news for the team, because that means that we're pretty far ahead and it comes down to us, so it will mean that we're in a great position." All this means one thing. Red Bull is not happy with the current development of the events, and even though they don't have a direct competitor other than themselves, the current situation is a very delicate one, and the team's chemistry could drop massively. It's the last thing that Red Bull would want in a dominant season like this, and the fact that Verstappen has warned the team that this is not what he participates for, and anything other than the win is a result that he wouldn't accept as a good result, no matter the starting position on Sunday. The warning that Verstappen sent to the team is a truly chilling one, and when talking about the outcome of the Jeddah Grand Prix, he said, "I recovered second, which is good, and of course in general, the whole feeling in the team, everyone is happy. But personally, I'm not happy, because I'm not here to be second, especially when you're working very hard also back at the factory to make sure that you arrive here in a good state and basically making sure that everything is spot on. And then you have to do a recovery race, which I don't like. I don't mind doing it, but when you're fighting for a championship, and especially when it looks like it's between two cars, you have to make sure that also the two cars are reliable." One thing is for sure, Perez and Verstappen will have many more battles like this one in the future, especially after the Mexican driver showed that he could fend off his teammate in a fair and square battle at the end of the race. Therefore, what do you think about the current development of things at Red Bull? Do you think they'll go down the road Mercedes did back in 2016? Let us know in the comments below.